Hey everybody, welcome to Small Business Big Visibility. This is Steve Young, not the quarterback, but the money man. So if you need money and you want to keep it in your pocket, he's the guy apparently. So Steve, tell us your story.
All right, well that's pretty open-ended. I'm 50 years old, so you know, how far back
A lot of territory.
I own Savvy Tax Strategies and Bookkeeping. We are a local business here in Nampa, Idaho, but have clients throughout the country, literally from Florida to Wisconsin to California, Oregon, Washington, New Mexico, Iowa. So, and you know, we primarily help. It's full accounting, so we have two divisions. The one does the bookkeeping, the payroll, the tax preparation for business and personal, but really what I like to talk about and what I really like to do is on the more advisory side where I'm a certified Profit First implementer. So I help business owners to implement the book Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. It's been around for like 11 years. Business owners
Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah, it's Michalowicz. For the longest time, I would say Mike Kawasaki or Mike Michalowicz or
I went to his website and pushed the button
really
every
hard.
single time.
Yeah, it's really hard. He talks about it too. He's got a great podcast too. But so that book's been around for 11 years. Business owners will read the book and say, "This is a fantastic concept. I want to put this into my business." And then they have no idea how to implement it, or they will start and then fail. And so there's a whole certification process that accountants, bookkeepers, business coaches can get into and become certified in helping them do that.
So do they have an acronym once you get certified?
No, they don't. I don't have a designation for that one. It's
What?
just certified. Well, I guess, you know, it's
Every organization has-
CPFI, Certified Profit First Implementer. Yeah. And then after I help you become more profitable, the second part of the advisory side that I do is the tax strategies, where I am a certified tax advisor to help.
What's the acronym for that one?
CTA.
There we go. Okay.
And so that one, you know, then not only do I help you make more money, but then I help you save more money and pay less in taxes with that strategy. So those are the two sides that I really like.
Gotcha. So getting profit, keeping profit.
Yes.
That's it.
What's the point of making more money if you just have to give more of it to the government? And so
Gotcha.
my belief is that we, the people, know how to spend our money better than the government does, which, you know, if you look at Doge, they've proven that we don't know how to spend our money.
They're really good at spending money, though.
They're really good at spending it. Yeah, don't know how to do it, but they do it really well. So my goal is to really help the business owner keep more money in their pockets, to be able to reinvest it into their business, into the community, or simply changing their family legacy by being able to invest it into real estate or other investment products, retirement.
Gotcha.
To be able to be, you know, more successful as a family.
And so you've got that designation. You mentioned other how many designations do you think you have?
My client coordinator was like, "Stephen, I feel like you've had like all these different lives." I mean, I started as a youngin wanting to be in accounting, work for one of the big 5 at the time accounting firms as an auditor. And I wanted to travel the country, have them pay for it. I stay at a hotel for a couple weeks, I audit this company, and then I go to the next one. Well, by the time I graduated, I was married, had a couple kids, had been in the insurance business for a couple of years, was making more money there than I would as an auditor for now one of the big 4 accounting firms, because they had merged. And so I stayed in insurance, even though I had gotten my degree finally. And so I ended up 25 years in the insurance business. And so while I was in there, I got a master's degree in risk management insurance from Florida State, CIC, which was Certified Insurance Counselor, CRM, which was Certified Risk Manager, and then there's kind of the big ones on the insurance company side is the CPCU, which is the Chartered Property Casualty Underwriter, and the APA was my last one, which was the auditor or accredited physical auditor, I think, maybe. And the whole idea behind that was if you're a business owner, you have to get a general liability policy or a workers' comp policy if you have employees on payroll. And so when you get an insurance policy, and so if you're a business owner and you're trying to figure out this insurance world, here's how it works. You get a general liability policy, you get a workers' compensation policy if you have employees, and they'll ask you, your agent will ask you, how much do you think you're going to do, or how much payroll will you do in the next 12 months? And so you're forecasting in advance, right? So I've hired 2 employees, now I have 3 employees. When I started my workers' comp policy, the company asked me, what do you think your payroll is going to be? And I was like, well, 30,000. Well, now I'm up to well over that.
Sure.
So when that policy ends, then I would come in as the auditor and I would say, okay, you thought you would do $100,000. What did you actually do? And if you did more than $100,000, guess what? You owe more money to the insurance company. And if you did less than $100,000, then they're supposed to give you some money back.
Do they?
Well, they give you a credit, you know.
Oh, okay. So kind of.
If you left them, then they'll give you a check. But yeah, I mean, that is how they're supposed to do it. So, so that was my last job in the insurance world, was as an auditor. So I saw literally over 2,000 different sets of financials.
Holy
and I would see mostly contractors, mostly blue collar, which is why I focus on the blue collar trades. Well, one, my dad was a landscaper, so it's in my blood. But then also, I would see all these contractors' books and all their financials and their payroll, and I would just like, man, these are a mess. Somebody needs to help these contractors. And my wife was like, well, yeah, somebody does. And I said, it should be me. And she said, no, it should not be you. No more side hustles. And so I said, you're right, let's go full time. She said, no, that's not what I meant. So, so that's how Savvy Tax Strategies originally. So I started doing taxes like 24 years ago, to kind of go back to the story.
Rewind.
When I got married and I was getting my undergrad, I wanted to retire my wife from being a preschool teacher. And so the fastest way to do that was to make more money, right? And I was an underwriter for an insurance company. I wasn't going to make more money. There was no commission aspect or anything like that. So I figured, okay, well, I'm going to be an accountant, so I might as well start doing taxes now. So I went through, this was 24 years ago. There was no just simply online school.com or whatever.
Yeah.
You had to do correspondence. And so I was living in California. The correspondence or the school was in New York, and I would have to fill out a quiz, put it in this green envelope, and mail it to New York. And then they would grade it and mail me back my results. And so it took a while for me to get the designation, or not so much the designation, because there was no more letters after.
Yeah, you ran out of letters with all the certificates. I think you have more letters in your certifications than you do in your name, actually.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, if I added it all together, there's probably like 12 or 13 of them. There's a few real estate ones. There's the big one for taxes, the EA, which is the enrolled agent. But anyway, don't interrupt my story.
Sorry.
Yeah, we'll never get there. This is going to be a 5-hour podcast. It's going to be like Jocko or something. People are going to be like, who am I listening to? So anyway, so I did that. I started doing taxes just to be able to help. And so I started doing taxes, got that part of my experience or whatever, or education going, and it flopped. Quite honestly, I was doing it on the side while being an insurance underwriter. I did some.
And you were still
did some penny saver ads. Oh yeah, I was still in school too, and had a newborn. And yeah, I like to
recently
do things.
Married, newborn, going to school, insurance underwriter.
If you want something done, you ask a busy person.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all about the schedule. But I started doing taxes on the side for a couple of people, and have just kind of always done that throughout the years. Didn't necessarily market it as a business or anything like that for a while when I was really busy with insurance, but decided about 2 years ago that I wanted to bring it back, that I wanted to start doing that again. And so Savvy Tax Strategies was created. And then as I kept seeing these bad books that, and contractors that needed help, because here's what I found is contractors, they're really good at contracting, right? Like a plumber, he's really good at being a plumber.
Yep.
And so he decides, well, I'm going to become a business owner, right? I'm going to start my own plumbing business. I'm tired of the hours that I never know if I'm going to get enough hours, or this guy's making too much money or whatever. I'm going to do my own.
Yep.
They're really good at plumbing.
Yeah.
They're not so good at websites, right?
Right.
As you can see by looking at my website. No, they're not so good at being a business owner so much.
Sure.
And looking at their books. And so either they're working 12, 14 hours a day out in the field and then coming home and still trying to figure out QuickBooks or their accounting or how to invoice people, or their spouse is doing it. And usually after their 8-hour job and feeding the kids, and then they're going on YouTube and looking at videos of QuickBooks and how to do it.
Yep.
And so it's not their fault that their books are a mess. It's just the nature of the beast. That's not their specialty.
Yeah.
So when I would look at all of these financials to try to help them with their insurance policies, I decided it wasn't just going to be Savvy Tax Strategies, but it was going to be Savvy Tax Strategies and bookkeeping. And so that's how the whole thing started 2 years ago. And Savvy 2.0 is coming July of this year.
Wait,
so
you're upgrading again?
Well, it's still going to be Savvy Tax Strategies and bookkeeping, but the goal has always been to help the small business owner be more successful.
Okay.
That's why I do the profit first stuff. That's why I do the tax strategy stuff. So Savvy 2.0 is I guess this is kind of the coming out party. I wasn't planning on talking about this necessarily.
That's right. Let's drop something here.
Well, there is SavvyCEOalliance.com is something that I've already started, and it's essentially a school platform. There's going to be the free version. There's going to be eventually some paid classes as well. But it's all about helping business owners understand being a business owner. Some additional training, entity structuring, all of the most common questions that I've gotten over the last 2 years. People that have come to me and said, hey, I want to start a business. What do I do? What entity should I be? How do I set it up? How do I pay my kids and write that off? Should I be an S Corp? Should I not be? All of those questions are now going to be part of the training that you can just get for free as part of that. And then the idea is, you are able to grow your business so much that then you need me as your bookkeeper and tax strategist.
Or at least your team, right?
Or my team, yeah. Preferably my team.
You're getting to be hard.
I'm the high level guy. Yeah. No, I mean, I do it all, but I prefer to work more on the business than in the business.
Sure.
How you ultimately grow, right?
Absolutely.
Which is also part of that training. So.
Nice.
Yeah. So was that the first question? That was only the first question. Holy smokes, we're in trouble. Now you know why my client appointments last for 5 hours. Just kidding. I can keep them short too.
That's right. 3 hours.
The answer is yes.
What number did you have in mind?
Exactly. What number do you want it to be? Okay, no problem.
So how many businesses have you actually had your fingers in over the years? It sounds like a few.
A few, yeah, because I like side hustles. There's the thing called entrepreneur ADHD.
Okay.
Or at least, I don't know if it's a thing or I just coined it or whatever. I'm sure somebody else has said it at some point. But entrepreneurs are horrible at keeping focused on one business. And I blame social media for this with all of the different business owners and influencers that are out there talking about multiple streams of income. And so now everybody feels like they're not doing it right if they only have one business, right? Okay. And one stream of income. And you can have one business and multiple streams of income, but that's not how it seems like people go. I have clients that they'll have a job or a business in the auto sector, and then they'll have a contractor business, and then they'll have a mortgage business, and they go and they try to get into all of these things, and the problem is they're supposed to be working in those businesses, not just simply investing in those businesses. So what ends up happening is instead of having one really successful business, you have 3 mildly successful businesses or not successful businesses at all. Right. And that was me, quite honestly. Whether I was working full-time at a job and then having a side hustle, which is different, I think, than being a full-time entrepreneur and having a business and then going, oh, look at this.
Right.
And so, so I've had a number of different, I have a lot of interests, so.
So if you're not working, what do you like to do?
When I'm not working, I go camping with my son. I have kind of an overland setup with my truck and tent and all that kind of stuff, and so we go out and just came back from Yellowstone and have been to Eastern Oregon already, and yeah, so we enjoy doing that.
That's
And then
quite a bit different than doing books.
A little bit different, yeah. I try to, mix it up, not just sit in front of a computer. I do some extreme stuff when I can. I do Spartan races. I've done an Ironman. I climbed to Mount Rainier last year.
Wow.
Yeah, some challenging things as well. Helps me to want to stay fit, which I didn't have a challenge this year. So as a result, this last tax season, I added 25 pounds. So if the camera makes me look really big, it's not the camera. I do need to lose the weight again after the tax season. When you're door dashing 3 meals a day, and you're at the office from 5 a.m. until 11 p.m., it's hard to.
So you were only working 3/4 of a day.
Only 3/4 of a day. Yeah, I did need to sleep.
You didn't work full time.
Hey, I'm old. I can't just simply sleep 4 hours anymore. It doesn't work.
That's right. He's sleeping 6.
I have to sleep at least 6.
Gotcha. You really bumped that up then.
Yeah, or at least 5. Yeah, I can go 5 on a few days, and then after a while, I have to catch up
to 6. Yeah.
I'm not Donald Trump, where he goes like 4 hours or something a day. I don't know how an 80-year-old does that.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. So I'm curious, how do you balance all this business growth and doing all these things with the family time and the time off and doing other things?
Well, my wife would probably say I don't balance it. Yeah, I believe balance is a myth, actually. I believe that there's a time and a season for everything, and there's going to be times like during tax season where I am working 80 hours. And then there's times where, more like right now, where I have my employees are kind of handling more of the back end stuff, and I'm able to work more on the business, and that allows me the freedom of saying, okay, well, I'm taking Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, and we're going to go camping or whatever it is. And so I really feel like balance is more of an overall thing, not necessarily a day-by-day thing.
Yeah.
At least that's how I look at it.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at life.
Yeah, I hope so. I don't know, man. I'm like everybody else. I'm just playing it by ear.
So what's one of your biggest successes that you've had in life from all aspects?
Well, I think if you look at all aspects, it's being married to my wife for 24 years. I think that's
your biggest success.
I was just going to say that. I think that's her biggest success. Yeah, it's funny. My parents' anniversary is coming up. They'll be married for 47 years, and I was talking to my mom, and I said, that's really a congratulations on your part, right? Because it was a lot harder for you to be married to him for 47 years than it was for him to be married to you for 47 years. And I think it's probably the same way. People would say, good job, Michelle. How did you put up with that for 24 years? But it's been great. We've got 5 kids, and they're all still alive.
There you go.
And mostly thriving, I think. So, yeah.
Nice. Well, that is a big accomplishment.
I think so.
So what's been one of the big struggles as a business owner?
Consistency. I think that as a business owner, income generally fluctuates. Now, in my business, this business, the great thing with accounting is people need their books done all the time, right? And so I have some monthly recurring revenue, and I love that model because I know that my bills are paid every month, whether or not it's tax season or not. And tax season is great. I kind of look at it like Christmas time, right? Tax season comes in, and I get this big lump of money that I can put aside and say, okay, I'm going to buy a building, or I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to invest into my business and do things during the off season. But I still have that ongoing every month clients that I have to work with, but a lot of businesses don't have that.
Sure.
Whether you're a contractor, and you're, unless you're a mow and blow kind of a contractor or something where you have regular service appointments, it's job by job, right? Or when I had my real estate license, it was house sale by house sale, and your market is dictated not entirely by you, but by interest rates and by political environment and that kind of thing. So I think that as a business owner, the hardest thing that you can find to manage is the inconsistency of your income, what jobs are going to come to me today. And I saw that with my dad as a landscaper. He, had a great word of mouth, a great following, had been in business for years, and then there was a drought, and his business just died. And in fact, that was originally what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to get into the landscaping business with him, really, and the drought kind of changed that, where I thought, okay, this isn't going to work out so much, and that's when I started going to get my degree in accounting.
So what's your recommendation, having seen all these blue-collar businesses where they don't have consistency? How does someone solve for that?
I don't know that, other than consistently working on your business, doing things like networking, like how we met with BNI or Chamber or whatever it might be, however, whatever kind of networking works for you. I think that if you can be consistent with that, in fact, during tax season, when I was working 80 hours a week, I was still going to networking events, whether it was my weekly BNI meeting, or chamber mixer or whatever it was. I was still trying to go to those, and I'd get comments like, "How are you here? Right? Aren't you supposed to be busy? It's tax time." And my answer to them was, if you're not networking, if you're not marketing when you're busy, you're going to have that roller coaster. And the perfect example of this is real estate agents. They will market, they will get busy, they'll have a couple of closings, they'll be so busy with those closings and those escrows and doing everything that's involved in those transactions that they stop marketing. And then those houses close, right, as they do, and you get this big lump of money, and you're like, yeah, I just got paid all this money. And then you've got no activity because you weren't marketing. And so now you've got that downside of the roller coaster, and you got to start marketing, and you take that money that you made, and you start marketing, and then you get a couple more closings, and you just keep going up and down. So how do you make it a little bit less up and down is by staying consistent with your marketing. I think that's the biggest mistake business owners make, is not staying consistent with that. If you're busy, keep spending money on those Facebook ads. If you're busy, keep going to those networking meetings, so that when those slow times come, and they're going to come, it doesn't matter what business it is, you're going to have those slow periods. But if you've been investing in the marketing, it'll hopefully ebb a little bit less.
Gotcha.
And so I think that's the first one. The second one is, to put a plug in for Profit First, is having your accounts and having your business set up in a way that you're ready to be able to weather those storms. You have the savings account, you have the money set aside to be able to pay the bills, whatever it might be, so that you can kind of weather that storm until more money starts coming in, or until another job comes in, or whatever adversity you face in it.
I think it's interesting you say that one of the biggest issues is businesses don't have consistent income. And the solution is for the business owner to be consistent on the promotion side, right? And by being consistent on the promotion side, they'll help solve or dampen some of that up and down effect.
Yeah, 100%. You have to work on the business. I learned it from the quintessential book, E-Myth Revisited, by Michael Gerber. Is a fantastic book that talks about how to work on your business, not just in it, right? And so many business owners, especially new business owners, they immediately start working in the business, and it's hard to not work in the business when you are the only employee, right? When I first started, I was doing the books, I was doing the taxes, I was doing everything, and that's how you're the certified, or you're the chief everything officer, right? The CEO, the chief everything officer, and that's how it has to be until you can afford to hire somebody. But the more you can focus on the business thing, and what I have found for me is the perfect split right now that I try to manage is a 10-30-60. So 10% of my time I spend on leadership. I spend with my employees, educating, training, whatever it is. That's the mix that I look. So 4 to 5 hours a week or so I'm dedicating towards that. And then 30% of my time is working on the business. So whether it's going to networking meetings, whether it's looking at creating a podcast, or the Savvy CEO Alliance stuff, things like that, I'm trying to work on the business there. And then 60% is actually working in the business, making the phone calls, talking to the clients, taking the client meetings, the sales meetings, things like that. And the goal ultimately for me then is to shrink that 60% to be less
Right.
over time, and to be working on the business even more. And I just made a big investment in hiring a staff accountant for the business, and so they'll be taking on more of the role of kind of the things that I always had to do that the entry-level bookkeeper can't do, doesn't know how to do. He'll be able to kind of handle that part of it, and so then I'll be able to work on the business even more.
Gotcha. And I like that idea of it's not a switch. When I read the E-Myth, it came across as it's a switch. Either you're working on or you're in. You can't have. And for me, and what I hear you saying is it's a dial, right? And you're turning that dial from 100% in the business and eventually working to maybe you get to 0% in the business and just working 100% on the business.
Absolutely.
Or 100% on your golf game or whatever.
Right. One of my business coaches, he actually works maybe 5% in the business at this point, and then 95% is either on the business or on the golf course, or he likes surfing. So, he's in Australia, so he's either surfing, golfing, or, he has like maybe 5% of some leadership meetings, but still owns the business 100% though. Yeah. So, he's figured out how to dial that. He's gone way to the other extreme. I'm not there yet.
Yeah. So from your perspective, I've heard a lot of like people who are saying, oh, there's a recession coming, or no, we're in the recession, or we're not in a recession. Have you seen any of that? I mean, you have kind of an inside scoop.
I've seen it a little bit with my contractors, how jobs have kind of changed here especially with interest rates. It's kind of funny, like interest rates for years were in the 5 to 7s to 9s. Even when I was a kid, they were like, in the teens, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And people were buying houses and they had no issue. Yeah. And then we got a taste of like 2.75 or 3%. And all of a sudden now it's like, I think it's right now it's like 5 3/4 or 6% or whatever. Nobody wants to buy a house because, who wants to buy 6%, right? They're waiting for that 3% to come back. And I don't know that it's going to do that. Mm-hmm. But regardless, eventually I think we'll forget about it, and 6% will be the norm, and people will buy houses just fine again and get HELOCs, and all my contractors will be busy again. But as far as the recession goes, I look at it two ways. The main way that I look at it is if it's not in my boat, I'm not going to worry about it, right? Okay. I think it was Bob Costas told the story or had an interview or something like that with the Olympics, like way back in the 80s, and it was something like, what are you worried about the weather or this or that? And the guy's idea, it's not in my boat. Right? If it's not in my boat, I don't worry about it. I just do what I got to do. And that's kind of how I look at it in my business. Whoever's the president, whatever the economy does, whatever the interest rates do, if I focus on my boat, my business, I will still be successful. Mm-hmm. Barring major issues like all of a sudden the IRS is absolved and there's no more taxes at all, that might change my business a little bit, but that's not in my boat. I can't control that. There's nothing I can do about that. Mm-hmm. So until that happens, right, but like AI is changing my field as well. Mm-hmm. And I know you know a lot about AI with it, and within your business, and I'm sure it's probably changing too. So that is something that's coming into my boat, mm-hmm. and I have to work with it. I have to learn it. I can't just ignore it and pretend it's not going to affect me. I'm not old enough that I can just say, well, I'll retire before it ever takes over. I'm not quite that old. So when it starts to come into my boat, then I do need to worry about it, and I do need to see how it's going to affect my business. And I think embracing it is better than ignoring it and pretending like it's going to go away or it's just a fad, right? Don't be Blockbuster with Netflix, right? Look at and I mean I've told people before, like the last thing I would want to do right now, and I won't name names, but if you're a franchise of a tax business, that's the last place I would want to invest right now. I wouldn't be buying one of them right now, because I just believe AI is going to change the field so much that those kind of places will either be out of business or they're going to have to pivot and be something different. Mm-hmm. Which is why I do the advisory, why I do the profit first. You're always going to need your books done. You're always going to need to know your financials.
Definitely.
Will AI take care of a lot of that bookkeeping? Yes. QuickBooks has added a lot of it. There's other AI bots and things that can categorize transactions and reconcile and do all those kind of things. But they won't necessarily be able to tell you what those percentages mean and how you can use those percentages to your advantage to be more successful in your business.
Right.
And so there will always be the human element.
And just this morning, I had a meeting with someone who had some questions, and they fed a bunch of data into AI, and it came out with this beautiful report. The only problem was they fed it the wrong data.
Feeding it the wrong data, interpreting the data for your specific business. Yeah, there's always going to be that human element, I believe, that and AI has gotten really good. Like even just in the last couple of years, watching it progress has been amazing, and what it'll do in 5 years from now, who knows? Hopefully we're not. Hopefully Elon's projection doesn't come true and they take over the world. But I'm not so worried about that. But I do believe that bookkeeping and taxes will be completely, like, you probably will not do a tax return anymore. I believe that AI will just simply take care of it for you, unless you are a business owner that has a cumbersome tax return or something like that. We'll still have people to do that. But the standard employee that's got a W-2 job, there's no reason why they should be doing a tax return now, quite honestly. I think it's kind of silly. Like, the IRS knows how much money you made. They know how much taxes. Why do I have to tell you this again, right? Like, it is asinine. And this is a tax person telling you this. It's silly that we have to do this. It's going to go away in the next 5 years. Not that we won't have to do it still, but it'll just be so much more automated with AI. I think that it'll just be done.
Yeah. So at what point, you had a great analogy. It's not in my boat, I don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But at what point are you going, it's not in my boat, to, I don't see it in my boat? Like, how do you know if you're doing that?
If you can impact it, if you can influence it, I can't influence whether Donald Trump absolves the IRS. Right now, some people maybe can. There's always
much influence.
I don't have that much influence, and I guess there's always those people that they figure out a way. Yeah, especially with my name. All he knew how to do was throw a football. I mean, he was good at it, but still, at the end of the day, I feel like, though, if I can influence it, if I can impact it, or if it's going to impact my business, that's in my boat. If it's something that it's industry-wide, or it's, people-wide, whether that's nationwide or country-wide or whatever, I have less influence there. Can one person make a difference? Sure. I don't know that I want to die on the hill of whether the IRS stays in business or not, though. Especially because I'm perfectly happy with it going away.
Make me unemployed. That's what
make me unemployed. Make me find something else to do. I've got plenty of other ideas. I'm just itching to do. So I've been actually, one of the keys to success, I think, that if you could say I have found some success right now with Savvy, is I've done better of putting the horse blinders on with my entrepreneur ADHD.
Sure.
In the past, it would have been like, okay, I've got Savvy going pretty well. What other business can I start?
Yeah.
And instead, what I'm trying to do is look at Savvy and be like, okay, let's maybe add a little bit to it with like the Savvy CEO Alliance, but it's still part of the overall goal of the overall core values of the business.
Right.
It's not a completely 100% different business over here on the left. And so I tell a lot of my clients, I'm like, look, I'm the perfect example of what not to do sometimes with some of these other businesses. Here's where I have found success of, if you focus on this business, you can find other avenues and other streams of income. You want those other multiple streams of income, fine. I now have a property that I've invested in. You've got the taxes and you've got the bookkeeping. I have multiple streams of income in my business while still being the same business.
Right.
You can do that as a plumber, as a contractor, as a web developer. You can still have those multiple sources of income without necessarily having to go so far out of Because what ends up happening is you only have so much time, right? I actually had to print this meme on my wall that it says, there will always be more ideas than time to implement them. And that's true, I think, for a lot of creatives, a lot of entrepreneurs is, oh, I've got this great idea. I can do this and I can do that. There's lots of ideas and most of them work, right? Like most of them have people that have successfully made millions of dollars in them.
Yeah.
You're not, because you're trying to do 10 of them. And like I said, I'm the perfect case example of why you're not successful in doing it. Because I'm trying to do 5 of them and it doesn't work.
Yeah, I think that is probably one of the greatest nuggets of wisdom that I've heard someone say is, if you're going to have the entrepreneurial ADHD, then make sure that you're innovating within the business you're running instead of going and starting something totally different.
Yeah.
Because if you're constantly, and that's what working on the business means, is take and channel that creativity, channel that excitement, channel that, but keep it within your business so the business really takes off instead of having 20 businesses
100%.
that you're splitting your time on.
Yep, 100%. Yeah. Way to sum it up. Brevity is not one of my.
That's not your specialty.
Not my specialty. Yeah.
And you're not an attorney.
I am not an attorney. I don't get paid by the minute.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I went to a meeting and an attorney was there, and he literally talked for 45 minutes about nothing that the meeting had to do with.
And then sent you a bill for all 45 minutes, right?
He didn't send me the bill, thankfully.
Yeah, I have a client that was telling me about a story with an attorney as well, and he started chit-chatting.
Oh, no.
And she's like, no offense, but you're charging me every 6 minutes? I'm not interested in chit-chat. I don't charge by the minute, by the way, or by the 6 minutes or whatever. So, yeah.
So you can chit-chat that.
I can chit-chat. Yeah, clients will ask me, they're like, am I getting charged for this? Nope. It's all part of the service. I'm like, okay, then tell me about your camping trip.
So what is this Savvy CEO? You've told a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Is that the 2.0 or is there more coming besides that?
That's the 2.0, and the idea behind it is, I'm sure you've heard of School, right, with Alex Hormozy, and so it's SKOOL, right,
Yeah,
.com.
I think they could have spelled it a little.
I guess maybe school was taken, I don't know. So it's a fantastic platform for innovators, people that want to share a course or whatever, and if you're interested in doing it, it's $100 a month is what I pay, or what I will pay, I guess. I've paid one payment, I think, because you get like 30 days free, right?
Okay.
And so as you start to build, but you've got the content. It's kind of like doing a Facebook group outside of Facebook. So you've got the content with the classroom and all the different courses, and you click on this chapter or that chapter or whatever, and it'll teach you on that subject. But there's also the social aspect of it with the bulletin board, and you can see people's comments and who's in there and stuff. And there's a few different tax groups that I'm part of that have it and have really used it well in not only creating and cultivating a nice culture there with the people that are in it and supportive of, hey, great job of getting that sale or whatever it is, but then also in the classroom aspect of learning about this tax strategy or that tax strategy. And so my idea with Savvy CEO is, I named it Savvy CEO Alliance, one, because ChatGPT said it was a really good name. 2, it was available. And 3, I wanted it to be an alliance of CEOs. And the word CEO, I find it funny when there's a person that's in business for themselves and they're literally just them, right? And I'm the CEO of this business. Well, yeah, the chief everything officer. I've always hesitated. In fact, even on my business card, it says chief savvy officer. It doesn't say chief executive officer. That just sounds funny to me when, I'm not at a bank, right? I don't have 4,000 employees. I'm not the CEO.
Plus, you already have enough letters.
I'm the owner, right? But anyways, if you're a business owner and you want to learn more about being a business owner, there's lots of sources out there, of course, but they don't always necessarily go together, or they don't answer the questions very well for the small business owner, for the contractor. If they did, then I wouldn't be getting all these questions.
Gotcha.
And so I figured, well, I'm getting all these questions.
Right. Yeah.
Let's put a video together of it, put it on this platform, and ultimately the goal is to have these videos pre-done for people, right? So when they ask the question, I'm like, hey, that's a great question. I'll send you a link to a video I created, right? And then they can join the alliance and they can see other CEOs and they can bounce questions and network and that kind of thing. But then also, eventually, it will become a multiple stream of income for me where I'll have a inner circle of business owners that want a little more access, weekly or bi-weekly meetings where we can kind of have a coaching call, and really the focus will be on the tax strategies, the bookkeeping aspect of it, the more the financial side of it, because that's where my expertise lies. But then also the goal of having a live webinar where I have you come on and talk about more of the marketing and the website and stuff, or having somebody else come on and talk about their specialty. One of the things I do with the tax strategy stuff, I call it a 360 tax strategy or 360 tax plan, because I look at everything, but I don't do everything, right? So I'll look at your retirement plan, but I don't sell retirement plans. I'm not licensed in that. And so, but I know somebody who is, right? And so I'll look at it and make sure that it's part of your tax plan, but then I'll refer you to somebody who I know can help you with that part of it. Gotcha. And that's kind of the idea with Savvy CEO Alliance too, is we're aligned with everybody else too. So you'll ask me the question, hey, what's the best retirement plan for me for tax-wise? I don't know. Let's ask Andrew, or what, and we can find out, and then they can help you with that part.
And so, how do people get a hold of you? Where do they go to find you?
SavvyCEOalliance.com is on there, but probably the best way is just Steven at SavvyTaxStrategies.com, SavvyTaxStrategies.com, Facebook. Come see me at the local Starbucks, 10 to 10:30 on Thursdays. Give me a ring-a-ding.
There you go. Yeah. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Really appreciate it.
You bet. We're done already?
We're done, yeah.
Wow, all right.
Fine.
Yeah. Fine. Wait for part 2.
People have another life besides listening to you, my friend.
Well, I thought you told me this was like Jocko's podcast. I thought we were going for 3 hours.
Next time.
All right.
Yeah. And to all of our listeners out there, thank you for listening to another episode of Small Business Big Visibility. If you know somebody who wants some tax tips, why don't you share this episode with them so that they can get savvy?